This is the story of how I grew my life coaching business from $0 to $10,000 a month in 8 months. And to be clear, when I quit my day job, I had no clients, I had no audience, and I had no real plan for success. So since that time, many years have passed and I've made millions of dollars as a coach. But that first $10,000 month was magical, as that was when my business became real. Making $10,000 or euro or pounds a month as a coach might feel like a complete fantasy to you right now, and I get it. It felt like a fantasy to me back in the day. But the truth is, you're actually much closer to fulfilling those dreams than you may realize, and this video will help show that to you. When I started, I thought I just needed to be a good coach and tell my story, which is actually exactly what my coaching school told me to do to get clients. And if I did that, people would magically appear wanting to pay me. I mean, people spend billions of dollars on coaching each year, right? I mean, how hard could it be to get just a tiny slice of that cake? Turns out it is very hard. So in this video, I'm going to go through my story on how I got more slices of a cake than I could ever imagine. And I'm gonna tell you everything I learned along the way so that you can do the same. Because it's not rocket science, you can absolutely do this. So let's get into it. So before we get to the part with the nachos and the fetal position on the couch, which absolutely happened, let me give you just a little bit of backstory about me. So hi, I'm Christy Mims. I was born in Switzerland, which sounds way more glamorous than it actually is, trust me. I was really only there as a tiny baby while my parents were in the Foreign Service. Sadly, I did not grow up in the land of cheese and chocolate. Instead, I grew up mostly in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., in a perfectly normal, non-entrepreneurial family. My dad had quit the Foreign Service to become a Delta pilot when I was very little, and my mom was a pediatric nurse. So I didn't really know any entrepreneurs or business owners, unless you count my favorite uncle down in Georgia, who ran a bike shop. And we had lots of great conversations when I was growing up, but not really about what it takes to run a business. So naturally, I did what you are supposed to do. I got a bachelor's degree in history because I love history. And then I got a master's degree in international conflict analysis in the city of Brussels because I really like chocolate and also peace. And after interning at NATO and eating so much chocolate, I had to go back to DC because my passport said so. And so I landed back in Washington and put on my much more sensible shoes, and I became a consultant. And I started climbing the corporate ladder as everyone does. And actually, I was fairly good at it. In my consulting firm, I worked my way all the way up to director of our business unit, which meant I was managing multi-million-dollar portfolios and also a team of super smart and super lovely professionals. But here's the thing about climbing a ladder. You can get really high up and realize that you do not love the view. And for me, even though I had a great job and great clients and a great company and a great salary, I started to feel really trapped. I thought I had what felt like success, but all I really wanted was freedom. Freedom from billable hours, freedom from PowerPoint slides, and freedom to do work that I felt really passionate about. And I can remember very clearly going to work on the DC Metro, the subway system, one day, and looking around and feeling terrified that I'd wake up in 30 years still on the same train, doing the same job. But the difference would be that my life would basically be mostly over at that point. And that just scared the bejesus out of me. So I did something that felt a little bit like a secret at the time. I signed up for a coaching certification program. My plan wasn't actually to become a full-time coach, not really, I was curious. It was mostly just to learn some new skills and get just a peek into that world to see what it was all about. Because maybe there was a future there, but I wasn't sure. And in fact, a bunch of people in my consulting firm had already taken coach training as professional development so we could do different work with clients. So I thought, why not? I figured at the absolute worst, it would just be another fancy certificate to slap on my resume. So I enrolled myself in the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. They have a coaching program. The school is IPEC for short. If you're curious, I'm an IPECer. And let me tell you, it was really awesome training. It was a ton of work. It was tons of hours, but it was so incredibly rewarding and such a good personal development journey for myself. I learned so much about myself. And I was working harder than I ever had in grad school and learning the skill of coaching. And it was in that program that I just had this enormous light bulb moment that this is what I wanted to do. do. I was pretty surprised because I walked in not sure that this is what I wanted to do, and I walked out thinking, oh my gosh, I want to be a coach. This is my passion. Helping people figure out what they want to do with their work is what I was meant to do. So I picked my niche and, obviously career coaching. And specifically, I niched down into coaching around career passion. Super specifically, I wanted to help smart women find work that they love. Why? Because of course I was my own first client. As coaches, we often coach who we used to be. And I was so excited by this idea of work that I love. It just made sense to help other people find it as well. But here's the kicker. When I started talking excitedly about becoming a full-time coach, the vibe around me changed. People in my life understandably were skeptical. For instance, when I told my boss in my consulting firm, someone who's super smart, who I really trusted and respected, who was also a certified coach, when I told her that I was thinking about going to coach full-time, stop consulting, she told me that it was pretty much impossible to make a real living as a coach, that the market was saturated and I would fail. And hearing that from her felt like a total punch in the gut. And I admit I was so disappointed that I almost gave up, but I didn't. What I did instead is I just wanted to validate her information. So I networked my pants off to try to find some coaches who were supporting themselves to do some informational interviews. And a few of them who were full-time coaches said to me, you can absolutely earn a real living doing this. So I decided to go for it. I quit my stable, high-paying government consulting job. I came up with a name for my new business. I called it the Revolutionary Club. And then for good measure, just for fun, I decided to completely blow up the rest of my life too, just to go all in on living my dreams. So I packed my bags, I left Washington, D.C. I moved all the way across the country to San Francisco because I wanted to be just in another place. I wanted to be in a more entrepreneurial city. I wanted to be by the water. And I just wanted to start feeling more free in my life and my decisions. So I drove across country. It was me, my mom, a tiny silver convertible, and just a couple of suitcases, which is all I took with me. I sold everything else. And, we spent our time trying every barbecue spot we could as we drove from the East Coast to the West Coast on the southern route. It took us about a week, and oh my gosh, when we hit Nevada and started to get vegetables again, it was very, very exciting. But when that week was over, I was in California. There I was, new city, a fairly new business. I had started getting clients in DC, but I did not have enough clients to support myself. And I didn't really have a solid plan. And that's when things got really interesting. Those first few months after I moved to San Francisco were challenging. Not to be Captain Obvious, but San Francisco is an incredibly expensive city. And coming from DC, I thought I knew what an expensive city was, but I did not. I was so wrong. The savings that I had built up to support my business while it got clients was draining away really quickly, all while I was trying to get my start in a completely new place, and it was hard. And there were a lot of days when I felt lost and overwhelmed. And yes, there were also many moments spent curled up on my new couch from IKEA, panicking and wondering if I had made an enormous mistake. But I decided I had to double down on what was working. And what was working for me in DC to find clients before I left was public speaking. So I had gotten relatively good at public speaking. Now, when I say I had gotten relatively good at public speaking, I don't just mean I got comfortable on the stage speaking in front of an audience. I had a background in speaking from my consulting days. I was comfortable in front of a room doing facilitation and giving talks. Getting good at public speaking meant getting good at the hustle. That's what I mean. It meant actively hunting for opportunities, researching local groups, sending in pitches, and making calls to get myself booked to speak. It was a constant effort to find places that would let me speak. And I was pitching myself for free. And once I was on stage, I worked and tried to get better with practice. And I learned that the most important part wasn't giving a good speech. You need to do that, that's critical. But what was important for my business was having a clear call to action at the end of the talk. So what I did is I started inviting people to work with me and take my $97 paid assessment. And from that $97 session, I would then offer those who were a good fit a chance to work with me in one of my bigger coaching packages, my $3,500 regular program or my $5,000 VIP program. And that became my first real marketing and sales system. The hustle to find and book speaking engagements combined with delivering a talk that led into that $97 session, which is my sales funnel, was a repeatable process. So for the first time, I wasn't just like hoping for clients to fall out of the sky. I was building a repeatable system to find them. And that's when I finally started signing clients on a regular basis and making enough money to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And once I had that simple marketing and sales system in place, my business began to grow because I could repeat it, I could get better at it, it made sense. And for the first time, I finally had a consistent pipeline of potential clients, which meant I could, pay my rent, I could start planning vacations, I could take myself out to dinner. I knew I could have income coming in not just that month, but months in the future. And I wasn't just hustling anymore without a plan. I was actually building something real and something sustainable. And then my work started getting recognized. I was featured in places like Forbes as one of their top 100 websites for careers, and my writing was showing up in other amazing outlets like Business Insider and the Daily Muse. I hit 6 figures for the first time, and then I had a year where I made more money in my business than I had ever made as a high-level consultant. And it was all because of private coaching. And I want to be crystal clear, this did not happen by accident. It happened because I was building the 5 core business systems that every single successful coaching business needs. So in your coaching business, you need a marketing system to help clients find you. You need an education system to explain why they need a coach and help them understand how you can help them. You need a conversion system to get them to say yes to hiring you. You need an onboarding system to handle all of the logistics and set your clients up for success. And last but definitely not least, you need a coaching system to deliver amazing results. But this success created a new challenge for me. So the more one-on-one clients I signed, the more hours I had to spend coaching. And I realized that scaling beyond a certain point for me was impossible because I could keep raising my rates up to a certain amount. But the real limit was the number of hours in the day that I was willing and able to coach. And ultimately, you're always trading time for money in a private coaching model, which is very effective, but there is a limit. So I knew if I wanted to serve more people and break through that income ceiling, because let's be frank, I wanted to make a lot of money as a coach. And I think that's okay to say. It's okay if you want to make a lot of money as a coach. But that's when I realized it was time to fully move into group coaching so I could scale my business and also, and this was important to me, I could scale my impact and reach more people. So I was very nervous about group coaching when I first thought about moving in that direction. Would my one-on-one process even work with a group? How do I manage a group? Who would buy it? Could I even reach enough people to buy my programs? So I took the pressure off myself by offering my first ever group program for free to a very small group of people in my network. And it was a test. And you know what? All 5 slots that I had filled up instantly, which was shocking to me, but also so motivating. And that free program eventually became my signature career group coaching program, which I called the Career Happiness Revolution. And I grew it from nothing to over 500 people in just a few years. And then after that, I decided to write a book because I wanted to codify my process and have something to offer people who could not afford my private coaching or my group coaching. But I didn't want to just sell a $10 book. I wanted a passive income stream. So I created different tiers of my book. You could buy the book, which is called Zero to Passion. And by the way, you can still buy it today for $35. Or you could buy the book plus a workbook for $59. Or you could get what I called the whole shebang, the book, the workbook, and a whole video training series for $149. So that one offer, that one book has now brought in well over 6 figures in income all on its own. And so you can find it at zerotopassion.com if you're just curious about what it looks like and how I talk about it. Finally, I needed a way to fill these new programs without having to go in person to speak to small groups all of the time. So I started using online webinars to increase my reach. So to test one idea, I offered a paid webinar called the Networking Masterclass to my email list. I told them you could pay what you can afford with a recommended price of $59 because I wanted to test if people were even interested in this idea. So before I even built the full Networking Masterclass, I had made $7,000. People signed up with just a simple email offer and a link to a checkout page. And that proved to me that I had a viable product, which then turned into a full online program. So my career coaching business at this point was a success. I had built the systems, I was making great money, and I was helping a ton of people. But then something new started happening. My coach friends, people I'd met along the way, started asking me for help with their businesses. They'd say, Christy, how did you get so many clients? Or Christy, what's your secret to marketing? Or what's working for you? Can you hop on the phone with me? Can I pick your brain? And I didn't have time for that. So at first I just started a blog to share what I was learning, what was working, what wasn't working. And it was a no holds barred look at sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly of running a coaching business. But I quickly realized that most new coaches were just like I was when I started. They were great at coaching, but they were struggling with the business side of things. I wanted to help because you can't help people as a coach if you don't make enough money to sustain yourself. There's great coaches out there without clients, and that sucks. So, I knew so many great coaches who could transform people's lives if they could just connect with those clients and get paid enough to make it worth their time so they could support themselves coaching. So late in 2016, I created Coach Pony. I took everything I had learned, all of my systems, my mistakes, my successes, and poured it into a new group coaching program designed specifically for new life coaches. So I created a pilot program in 2016, and that pilot became what is now known as Build a Real Business, or BARB for short. Since then, we've coached over 1,600 coaches in BARB across so many niches. I've also started a podcast. I built a big email list, and I've created countless, endless blog posts and free webinars, all to help coaches learn the business skills that they need to succeed. And through all of that free content, we've been able to help over 30,000 coaches from all over the world and so many niches. So that's it. That's my story on how I scaled from $0 to $10,000 a month as a life coach in just 8 months. And hopefully, this story has inspired you to get started and has shown you what is possible with coaching, because I am nothing special. I am absolutely nothing special. I'm lazy. I like to take naps. I like to sit on the couch. So if I can do it, trust me, you can do it too. And the great news for all of us is that building a coaching business isn't rocket science. It just takes focus and consistency and some business training. And I also want to be clear, if you hate public speaking, please know you do not need to start giving speeches to find clients. Public speaking worked for me in the beginning, but you can choose whatever marketing platform works best for you and how you like to communicate. And if you need help figuring out what works best for you in terms of marketing and what marketing approach might be a great fit, I've got a helpful, jam-packed, but also blissfully short free masterclass on how you can find clients as a life coach, date coach, health coach, whatever coach, in a way that works best for you. So I'll give you the exact method that works today in 2025 to help you find paying clients and also be less overwhelmed by all of the options out there for you. And if you don't believe me, I totally get it. Laura scaled from nothing to $30,000 as a result of some of my coaching, and you could be next. So make sure to click the tap link in the description to access the training completely for free. So it's just below this video. And I know you have a ton going on, but my advice is if you do sign up, just make sure you actually watch the class. Finally, make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, useful, or inspiring, or leave us a comment and say hey. And you can click here to watch our podcast episode on how you can set your prices as a coach, so you can make sure you charge what you're worth when you sign your coaching clients as a result of this masterclass. And that's what I got for you today. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.